Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on Gran Turismo 7. Today we're back with a track guide at Catalunya in Group 4. So for this guide we're on the medium tyres with BOP on and obviously default setup. Now the car that we're using for this guide is the Alpha touring car. You can find this in the legendary garage. If you do not own this car, you can rent this car for free, obviously for the time trial. But for this guide, the reason we're using this is because the acceleration through second, third and fourth gear is just unbelievably good with this car. So the Subaru just doesn't quite have that pace on the acceleration. Now for the race you can use a Subaru and you can also use this car as well, so it's down to personal choice. Just remember, in the race you're on the hard tyres and you will be braking ever so slightly shorter than in this guide, so a little bit before you see the braking points on the mediums. Take into effect that you're going to have fuel on board as well, so just factor that into the guide as well when it comes to race conditions. But we're going to get on with the guide and try and find you as much time as possible, so make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and yeah, let's see if we can make you go a little bit faster around Catalunya in Group 4. So starting your lap, obviously one thing to note straight away with this car is we're not going to rev it fully. You'll see I shift about 85-90% just before the end of the rev range. We're not going to rev it all the way to the maximum range. So into turn 1, we are going to be looking for the 100 board and the little black board near it. You can see here it's the warning board for the yellow flag there and the 100 board. We're going to break it a little bit closer to the 100 board, but in between both of them. Obviously in the race you're going to break closer to the first one. Now you can see there braking inputs going in just dead on that 100 board on the left hand side. Now we're going to brake and downshift the third gear and try and rotate it into this corner. You can see I'm actually turning in quite early and you can see I'm actually closing in on the ghost in front of me. Now I got a little bit off put by these ghosts. You can see we use the curb on the right hand side, and again this corner here they're a bit covered up by the ghost, but you want to get your left hand tyre over that green part and go straight over the sausage curb there to get as much power down on the exit as possible. Now through here you're going to stay on the power and try and widen the line into this corner so you can take a narrow apex to the curb on the right hand side, because if you can get your right hand tyre onto this curb you can find a lot of grip. So you can see a little lift off the throttle and then back onto the throttle. So off the throttle and then we're going to get back onto the throttle and we're going to try and keep that tyre close to the curb because there is a lot of grip on that right hand side of the track. If you get the car all the way over there you can actually get on the power super early and carry a lot of speed into the next braking zone, which we're going to use this board over our head here, the Polyphony digital board. I use that as a reference there, braking just before that, and you're going to try and get this car slowed down, and again try and get the car into a narrow line for this right hand corner. The more narrow you can take this while carrying speed, the better your lap time is going to be. So again, trail braking all the way into the corner. Once the grip's there, get on that throttle and try and power your way out the corner. Now you want to really keep it as tight as possible. Like I say, I run a little bit wide there, but do manage to get it back over to the right hand side of the track. And now we're going to use that little thing on the right hand side there. I spotted it when I'm braking. That's what I use as a reference. So when we're about online with that, braking input's going in, and we're going to try and downshift to second gear here. So downshifting through the gears, and again, try and get this car rotated into the apex. Now once the car's squared off with the curb, you can see it there, you can get on the throttle nice and early, power out in second gear, early upshift to third gear, and then power your way into this next chicane. Now this is a fast flowing chicane. I use the start of the curb on the right hand side. You can just see it there. I use that as a reference for where I'm going to get on the brake, so that's my reference point that I'm looking at. And as soon as we're level with it, you can see braking inputs going in, and we're going to downshift to third gear. So from fourth gear down to third gear, again trail braking into the corner, left hand tyre skimming this curb. Just before we skim this curb as well, you can see we're onto that throttle super aggressive because we want to carry the speed. You really need to get on the throttle as early as you can all the way up here and keep that left hand tyre as close to the white line as possible. If you go too far over you can pick up a penalty there, so be careful. But yeah, the more exit speed there, you can gain a lot of lap time. Now into this right hand corner, I use the end of the curb again as a reference for where I'm just going to give it a tiny bit of braking input. We're not going to be aggressive. It's going to be the tiniest amount just to transfer the weight of the car to the front tyres to help you carry more speed through this corner. So tiny bit of braking input in. Then we're going to get back on that throttle as we get close to the apex and the grip builds up, and try and get the car straight. And you can see I give a tiny little lift on the throttle there. Probably could have got away without doing that and just carried the speed all the way on the exit. But now we're looking for the next braking reference. We're going to use this little sign before the 100 board. Now in the race it shows you the yellow flag, blue flag, etc., but in time trial it's missing. We're using that as a reference, braking just pretty much dead on that. You can see braking inputs going in. Now we're going to brake in a straight line to slow the car down, and then we want to get this car rotating on the power at the same time up this next left hand corner. So keep your eye on the throttle and the braking, trail braking all the way into the corner, then watch the throttle. As soon as we're touching the curb, onto that throttle aggressively, let the car rotate in second gear, and then power your way up this hill. Now, we're going to go over the left-hand side down to the green Astro, and then as soon as we're coming towards the end of that curb there, that's going to be our reference for whereabouts we're going to get on the brakes. So just as we're going past there, onto the brakes, and now we're going to get the car slowed down for this right-hand corner. Now, again, you want to keep this car into this apex as tight as possible, because the grip is, that's where the grip is, and if you keep it right and get on the throttle at the correct point, you can carry a lot of exit speed out of that corner. So now we're going to power out into this next tricky technical section. Now, I, for this corner, pretty much just brake by a visual reference of when I see the curb. That's how I do it. I don't really have a reference on the track other than when I see the curb. And now, skimming the curb on the right side, let the car rotate and then get on the power to try and help with more rotation. Now, we're going to use this board, this structure above us as a braking reference, and we're going to try and rotate it into this final chicane. You can see just going on the brakes just before we're going underneath the structure, and you can see down to second gear. Now, I kind of mess this up a little bit. I go a little bit wide. You can see you really ideally want to go over the sausage curb straight over and avoid a penalty, obviously. But I missed that a little bit. But we do get the second part correct. You can see you want to get your car straight over the middle of there and attack the throttle. You can see we're on the throttle super early. And that part I did reasonably well. However, we did lose probably a tenth or two on the initial entry into the chicane. So definitely a tenth or two to come off this lap. And then power your way in over the finishing line. And we're going to go over a line with a reasonable lap. Now, we didn't spend too long on this. We did it at the end of last night's stream. We did 10 hours of streaming yesterday and did this lap at the end. So I was pretty happy with getting a 150.5, I think it was there. Obviously, I think there's a few more attempts to come off that, but it'll do for now. Let's have a little watch of that lap from chase camera just to show you the lines and stuff again. So into turn one, use the curb on the left. You can see how the left-hand tyres use the curb to widen the line over the curb on the right. And again, this, you see how the left-hand tyre goes over the left-hand side of that sausage curb. And you can see it always rotating the car in, trying to get that line widening in four-wheel drive, because it enables you to get on the throttle that little bit earlier. And with a car like the Alpha, the earlier you're on the throttle, the acceleration from this thing is pretty insane for a Group 4 car. Again, this corner, you really want to hold that. I really wanted to hold a tighter line through that corner, but we managed to run it reasonable through there without running too far wide. Into his left-hand corner, you see as soon as we're touching the curb, before we're touching the curb, we're on that throttle, super aggressive, and carrying the speed into this next chicane. Now, this chicane is so important for lap time. You need to get on that throttle really early. So keep an eye on the throttle inputs. On the throttle, 100% really early, carrying the speed up the hill, and now into this right-hand corner. Again, you're going to see that little lift off the throttle I give it through here. So a little dab off the throttle there. Could have got away if that would have gained maybe a tiny bit of a fraction all the way up to the next braking zone, but not a massive loss. So braking on that marker there. Again, this corner, as soon as we feel the car getting close to the curb, on that throttle 100%, rotate the car in second gear and power your way up into this right-hand corner. And again, like I say, tight line through this corner. Use the curb to almost rotate the car into the corner. The curb to kind of give you a bit of grip. And then into this right-hand corner, you can see, getting the right-hand tyre up onto the curb. Could have been more aggressive on the curb there. Had to kind of widen the line, and you can see that compromised me a little bit on the entry to the first part. But the second part, I got pretty nice on the power. Maybe lost a tenth or so through there with that mistake. And then over the line on a 50.5. So hopefully this will help you out. Hopefully improve your lap time. Let me know in the comment section if it does. Let me know, if it's managed to get you some wins on this race. Remember, in the race conditions, brake a little bit earlier. Fuel saver for the race. It's a no-stop race. And yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. But thanks for watching this video. I'll be back with more. See you all in the future.